Grace and peace, and welcome in to the Wise Perspective. I'm your host, Wise. I thank you for being here. Not for me. No. Thank you for being here for you. Because in order to become enlightened, in order to master self, you gotta go get it. You gotta do it for you. No one can want it bad enough for you to gain it. It takes you to go seek that wisdom and transform that knowledge into wisdom that allows you to elevate to your higher self. So again, thank you. All right, so I'm going to get right into this podcast episode, and it is going to be entitled Delusion is the first step to deconstructing your illusion. Now, I had to sit with this one a bit, right? Obviously, so I could channel deeper into the information that was coming through from my higher self. The first thing I was guided to was to look up the definition of delusion. Of course, I know the definition, but I wanted to see what textbook definition they applied to this word. And what I got was the firm or fixed belief in something that is not true. And I could see how they, kind of did that. You know how they play on the words. But as I say, the first area my mind started to sway into was how spirituality tends to get that labeling as delusion, as conspiracy theories. It's always pushed as no factual basis. It can't be real. It can't fall in the area of real. It also reminds me of how we have like holistic remedies, and they refuse to allow you to put a label on it that says that it can heal certain things. It has healing properties. Like they won't allow the I think it's called the FDA to sanction a lot of holistic healing remedies, especially if it didn't come to a pharmaceutical company. So they push that it's not real healing. Now you can have as much backing as possible to prove that many have been healed through it, that it is continuously healing others, even the properties and the benefits, you can push it all, but they still won't sanction it as a healing factor. And I kind of feel like the same thing happens when it comes to spirituality. It gets labeled as delusion. And I will say, if you want to use a textbook definition, you can. And it does begin there, because the first thing that happens before you step into an awakening is you begin to look at your world as if nothing in it is true to you, because none of it actually makes sense. And that's where that delusion starts to be deconstructed. And you realize that it actually is inverted, that what they're stating is the delusion is the truth. And it's the illusion that is actually the delusion. And everyone lives in the illusion. And they're pushing for you to stay in that mindset, that reversed mindset. Now, of course, obviously, I went a little deeper. I gotta go deep for y'all. And as I did, I started to really consider truth. Even remember, these definitions of these words, they do matter, especially when it comes to you figuring out what is real to you and navigating your path. So the word truth, if you were to ask someone who is very heavily in the 3D, very worldly, what is truth? They will tell you it's something that is based on a fact. Something that you can hold that has been proven by someone else to be of the realistic title. But in all actuality, truth is based on experience, which means your truth can be correct and mine can be very different from yours and it still be correct. Now, truth can be that a father is supposed to be loving, caring, and compassionate. Confirmation. And that father who lived in a household and provided that for his children is living in that truth. Now, your truth can be that a father does not do those things. He does not provide for his family. He is a burden to their livelihood. And because you lived that experience, that is your truth. Now we can talk about what should have happened, which again, should have, that's also circumstances as well. Because what should have happened is what happened. There were lessons that needed to be learned there, even if it was understanding that the father that did not provide that safety, that comfort, that love, that he's human. And in his humanity, he didn't heal enough to be able to provide the things he should have. And that was the experience that needed to be learned through you living through a truth that wasn't based on comfort, based on positive memories, positive reinforcement. You learned through a negative experience, perceived negative, of course, as we know. Everything's relative. There's no such thing as negative or positive, but a perceived negative experience that actually had a positive benefit because of the lesson you learned from it. So again, both are true. Your truth lives within you and your experience. The same comes into play when you look at delusion versus illusion. Now for myself, since I am spiritually woke, I will say I had to learn that it needed to be flipped. I had to learn that. Because trying to live under someone else's truth was my illusion. As I deconstructed that illusion, life began to make more sense. Now, this goes for everyone because we all have to start seeking knowledge, truth, and wisdom. And until you do, you remain stuck in a place of coasting, stagnancy, and confusion. Life opens up when that delusion starts to seem more obtainable when it comes to your happiness. So as I stated in the beginning, it is the deconstruction of the illusion that allows you to live in your truth. And this is where you're navigating when it comes to an ascension journey, when it comes to your spiritual path. You have chosen to deconstruct the illusion around you. And the first step is accepting that what is being told is a delusion, has way more truth to it than what you're living in. Now, I know many will probably be like, what the world says and feels has way more truth to it because more people are living it. Just because more are living in a way, that doesn't make it the facts, the truth. There are many who have lived in cultist society where they live with families that believe in religion and moving a particular way, and they force their children to do so as well. And it isn't until that child grows up and moves away that they start to see the world very different and understand that there's so much more. Now, if you ask where they come from, the people around them, the people who learned the same lessons they learned, what the truth is, the truth would be completely different from what they're going to tell you. They would be considered delusional. And to anyone who isn't spiritual, they would consider you delusional. This is why walking that spiritual path, ascending into your higher self, is a journey to self-mastery. Because what you believe is going to be a belief that a lot of people are not going to accept. You, in a way, are walking down a path very blind. And the primary senses that you are using is your sense of feel, your sense of knowing. This is why it is considered a delusion. Because if you are not tapped into that aspect of who you are, you would think that that person can't possibly do those things because you can't do them. And it's not even that you can't, you just haven't begun to strengthen those muscles. We've all had intuition our entire lives. If there was ever a time where you thought of somebody long enough and then they called you or texted you, that was your intuition. You guys were thinking about each other. Or you projected out the fact that you were thinking about them, or vice versa. And it resulted in a connection. If you've ever pulled something to yourself energetically because you wanted it bad enough. Like, for example, just the other day, I was chatting with a friend, and I said I needed a new juicer. I have a centrifugal juicer, and I needed a masticating juicer. They just do two different things. Definitely look it up, because if you are into buying a juicer, somebody here might be. You want a masticating juicer more so because of the nutritional benefits. You get way more benefits from it because it doesn't corrupt the fruits and vegetables that you are putting in. So that's for somebody. But yeah, I discussed it with a friend, and I said, I do need to switch out now. It's time for me to upgrade into that so I can get more health benefits from what I'm juicing. And 2 days later, I was gifted a masticating juicer from my daughter. I didn't have a conversation with her about the fact that I needed this, but she somehow got it to me. Now, if I was to tell someone who lived in the more 3D world, who did not believe in spirituality, who felt like manifestation is considered a delusion, that would seem like a coincidence. Oh no, it just so happened. Or, maybe you did tell her and you don't remember. But no, definitely not. So it's a if you know kind of situation. Now, the deconstruction of the illusion is, I feel, the hardest part. It is because it is the first step, because it's easy to go back to living in the worldly illusion when you start deconstructing it. When you start realizing all of the truths that have been around you the whole time that you overlooked for way too long. It's sometimes a sin you running back into the illusion. It reminds me, such a good one. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Reminds me of the Matrix, when Cypher, if you know, he's the bald guy who pretty much Judases everybody by selling them out to Smith, the agents. And he sold them out so that he can be plugged back into the Matrix, because living the reality of knowing that life was not at all what it was being portrayed when you're living in the Matrix. You feel like you're living a life, you're eating food. I think you wanted a steak. Yeah, and none of that is true. In reality, they were just batteries in the tank being used as an energy source. That reality of what it really was broke him so deeply that he was like, nah, I'd rather the illusion. Give me the fake, because this real stuff, nah, I'm not with it. I'm not with none of this. And it's sad because he betrayed real friends for fake enjoyment. That's what it feels like being a spiritual person amongst worldly people, worldly souls. Because just like you, they deserve to be free. They deserve to be able to start looking at their own delusions, because that's where their happiness lies, and then deconstructing it so that their world actually matches what their hearts desire, the true desires, not what the world told you to want. Your true desires from your soul caliber. So it is one of those things that you have to really sit with. You have to pick apart everything that you think you know. You have to run it through a mental and emotional filter to decide if it truly belongs to you. And when you start to do this, you realize just how much of your life has been swayed by those around you. It can be your parents. It can be the influences you have around, because we have a lot of that too. Think about it, the influences we have now in 2026, it's very different from the influences you had back in 1986. There weren't any cell phones where you are updated every 2 seconds on what someone else is doing. Most phone lines were home-based phone lines. So when you were on the phone, you were at home. If you weren't at home, you were usually out and about and living life, doing life. Not trying to find a way to portray it so that others can have an opinion on how you're doing life. Life has very much changed. And for spiritual people, spiritual lifestyles to be portrayed as delusional, it shows a lot about how far the world has gone to keep you living in a way that is restrictive. We are learning to be better. We are learning to do more. And the only way that we can fully step into that learning is to start deconstructing. I thank you for being here. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I am going to link my Substack. There you can find my writings. Definitely a different vibe. If you're somebody who likes to catch up on the reading, then yeah, you might enjoy my writings. I am going to start putting up my stories, so that'll be a vibe as well. If you would like to schedule a free consultation where we dive deep into the aspects of you as you start your journey towards self-mastery, or even if you're on the journey and you want a bit of insight on navigating it, go ahead and just use that Calendarly link. I believe I also am going to have a QR code. Scan it, schedule what time that's best for you, and we'll have a good discussion about it, and we'll see where you fall, where you fit, and maybe even get guided to where you need to go. Once again, I thank you. No, not for being here for me, but being here for you. Because that ascension journey, that spiritual enlightenment path towards self-mastery starts with you. Thank you so much. And I'll catch you next time. Love and light, y'all. In peace.